Hello and welcome to part 2, where I'm going to blab about a lot of the story elements of The Last Specter. If you wandered into this video, I talk about the gameplay, improvements, and things like that of the series in this game in part 1, and tell you whether I overall liked it or not. Pardon me. This part is just me blabbing about what I liked and disliked about the story, or just talked about the story. So, basically spoilers. So, go to the first part if you want just that, if you want to listen to the ramblings here. That's what this part is. So, this game's story trolled me. My number one rule of Professor Layton's games that I made since Curious Village was, if the puzzle looks too easy, then the odds are it's tricking you, it's lying to you, it's not going to be easy. And the story does that to you. It's like immediately as you get to the village and that, to investigate what's going on with this last Specter business, it's like the game wants to hammer in that Luke's father is an asshole and is incredibly suspicious and is up to something throughout this game. And it's like, well, case closed, his father's guilty, he's the one screwing with everyone. I love in the scene where Professor Layton's finally going to point out who is guilty party. It's like the frame before the real villain, it's like focuses on Luke's father, and then it's like, you! The butler! Wait, what? Yeah, the butler! It was the butler. Well, not real butler. You see, what happens is the villain of the game had hold the hostage of Luke's mother and his real butler hostage, having his father under the thumb. So, now in control of the city, he could do whatever he wanted. The Last Specter itself is a machine. It's a machine being used to discover a hidden ruins of a fountain that the villain wants to find. So he puts a lackey in the police force, and he just kind of keeps things under his thumb. Now, how was you supposed to figure out the butler was behind it? I think the main clue was supposed to be the fact that back in the beginning of the game, you were told that Luke told his butler to go tell people to evacuate, because nobody knew who the prophet was, who was telling the warnings of how the Specter is going to attack and that. And Professor Layton said there were flaws in the theories Luke had in his notes. So, that meant, why was no one ever injured then if there were small little flaws in the notes? And that's because the butler didn't want anyone. The true villain did not want anyone to be near the Last Specter. He wanted the Last Specter to not be seen close up, because then somebody could realize that's a machine, because with all the fog in that they used a machine to create fog from the rivers that go throughout the city. It was an ingenious plan, really, to be honest. But the reason I hold Diabolical Box higher than the Last Specter is because of the last puzzle. I'm totally twisted about the last puzzle in Diabolical Box. You see, as you get through the Last Specter, you find out that the two kids of the old wealthy guy who used to own the land, they basically have this extinct sea monster thing that looks like a giant seal. And it's basically the guardian of the town. It is basically the guardian from the legend of the supposed Last Specter legend that you're told at the beginning of the game. It was protecting the town, but the kids, it was the kids' friends, so they didn't want to be hurt, so they kept playing the flute to try and not get killed or injured further by the Last Specter, or the machine that the main villain was using to look for the artifact ruins of a fountain. Now, he gives up. You ruin his plans with the giant machine he tries to destroy the city with, and the villains make way exit light, and you get brought to the gate of these ruins. Lucia, the sea monster thing, it basically leads the characters to the dam that's holding on the water, which actually leads to this fountain garden area that is supposedly in the area. Now, one of the characters, one of the children, is deathly ill, and, well, this is probably the only other thing I have to really say. It comes out of nowhere that it's a nice area that could help clear out the illness she has. And it does. Her life saved by it. And Lucia sadly dies in the final act of showing him this. But before you get all the way to here, there's one more puzzle you saw. And it's an interactive puzzle, but here's where I really appreciate Diabolical's trolling. Okay, I've never completed every single puzzle in every single Professor Layton game. So, but as far as I know, the final puzzle in Diabolical Box is the only puzzle that uses the microphone. The microphone on your DS, a not very commonly used item on now. You're supposed to blow in it during the puzzle of the final puzzle of Diabolical Box. And I just couldn't help how clever I thought that was. Because it's like, you went through this whole game never using the microphone, period, for anything. And then it's all of a sudden, wind blows across. Ba 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 ba. That was the final. Well, I don't remember. It was one of the steps in it, but I really liked it. That nice touch in Diabolical Box, and I have to say I still hold it high. But Last Specter was really up there in very goodness. The ending ends with Luke wanting to be Professor Layton's apprentice, his father letting him go off, and, his mother and the wheel butler get saved from the basement. Villains get kicked out, and the city is saved by Professor Layton. It's a really interesting story. I love how it led up to that. Now, some people might wonder why I like Unwound Future the least. Diabolical Box, being the second game, had a lot of improvements. But Unwound Future, well, I couldn't say it did a lot of new improvements. But the thing that really got me was the ending. It was a good and interesting story. But in Unwound Future, the fact that there's this giant new city of London underneath London kinda just was over my head, really. And it's like, all these people living in this city. Did he pay them all? It never explains a lot of this, to be honest. Like, did he pay all these people to fake that they're living in the future and shit? Or did these people just never, the scientists never realized that they were lied to and these people promised homes here and never really were forward to it? That just seemed weird to me, and it's not horrible because of it. It just personally seems a little odd to me. And the final puzzle, though, the worst final puzzle in my opinion is Curious Village by far. But Unwound Future had a pretty normal puzzle that I don't think was too interestingly creative to be with what was going on at the very end of Unwound Future. But overall, I still have to highly recommend The Last Specter. All the Professor Layton games. They're all good. These are just little nitpicks. I mean, to really order them, you have to throw in your opinion of what you really appreciate or liked about. And I really appreciate how the end of Diabolical Box was done. And I think it's going to be really hard for future entries to keep challenging that one little thing that I thought was just really smart to do there. Just to troll you. But I really liked it how the story really wanted to try and trick you into thinking Luke's father was behind it all. I totally feel ashamed for falling for that. I really do. I really feel so stupid about that. It's like, remember, the rules applied to the story now. But, well, if you haven't gone Last Specter, go get it. Buy it. It's awesome. And I really look forward to the next Professor Layton game and the Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright game for the 3DS. But anyway, if you have any other questions or anything, please feel free to leave a comment. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings, my personal opinions. I will respect your opinion, and I hope you can respect my opinion. I love all the Professor Layton games, but that's how I personally would order them. Diabolical Box, The Last Specter, Curious Village, and Unwound Future. They're all excellent games, and each one challenges to become greater than the next. But each one is a quality and excellence. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.